Shalom, giving all praise to Yahawah, Sham, Qadash, and Shalom to the hopefully elect out there. I'm just watching this video, cracking up. See right here, GMS rebuked the tempter to defend the gospel, not a not a chair ISUPK versus the IUIC. Now, if you saw my video that I did yesterday, I pretty much sided with the IUIC, but they were both wrong degrees of you know, kind of not doing the right thing. Now, what I did was, I'm gonna say a few words and I'm gonna go into this main scripture based upon. Oh, did I give the wait a minute, let me give you the title. And it's right here. Certain lewd fellows of the baser sort. Now, I wanted to get into the word baser or baser sort, but I kind of focus on lewd, and that's a whole lewd. They give you, I go to that word, the root of the word, and it give me the blue letter gives me, give me a second. The blue letter gives me like 77 precepts, all in the New Testament. So I was reading these I said, damn. I said, these precepts is right on time. So anyway, the topic of this video is certain lewd fellows of the baser sort. And like I said, these guys were lewd, but I understand IUIC. Now, what I did was, what I heard was that's ISUPK's corner. They've been out there, that they go out there on a regular, and I believe IUIC says the same thing. So I looked it up. I went to ISUPK, and I went to Kansas City, and I didn't see them out there. I mean, I didn't look hard enough. So, but then I went to the IUIC, Kansas City. They were doing a video live stream earlier. So I went to the main page, and it goes a month back, and there were two individuals from IUIC speaking to a Benjaminite sister. And I looked at, and behind them was that corner. They were on that corner, right where they were when they was, when they were speaking that day yesterday or Saturday, whatever Saturday in the day. And I said, well, that's the place, because you can see like the library right behind them. I think the white with the blue trim, it gives the name of the library and so forth. So I said, well, if ISUPK were there and IUIC was there, IUIC had definitely been there more than this one time on the Saturday in question. So you go back a month back, and I could have probably checked out more, go a year back, 6 months back. But as soon as I seen that one video and I clicked on it, and I said, that was definitely the corner. I said, well, IUIC been there. This wasn't the first time that IUIC set up on that corner. Now, maybe certain times ISUPK go out there, and sometimes IUIC, and they happen to realize, oh, you are my, I don't know. But I do know that IUIC was there at least a month ago. So that wasn't the first time they were there. So it leads me to believe that that's their spot, until somebody show me otherwise. Like I said, I'm open to somebody showing me that. But like I said, I didn't find anything with the ISUPK camp. I didn't see them on that corner. So like I said, you can show me wrong. I'm really not taking no side on this thing. But like I said, they were on that corner, as far as I know, before this incident at least a month ago. So I would take it that, but I could be wrong. Okay, let's say IUIC's out there like they normally are. ISUPK says we're gonna set up camp right there, which that's a recipe for disaster, and it's not in the spirit of the Yahawashi and the disciples that became the apostle. Remember, the disciples were beaten by the wicked scribes and Pharisees. They didn't fight back. They didn't say, "Oh, we got 5,000 followers. Let's go kick these motherfuckers' asses." No, they just kept teaching the gospel. They kept with the gospel. You can read about that in Acts chapter 5. You can read start from the first verse and read the whole chapter. It tells you that they were beaten with rods. Hey, they beat Paul up. They beat Paul. They stoned Paul and left him for dead. He didn't say, "Well, I'm gonna get him back. You know, I'm gonna get with Peter. I'm gonna have another Jerusalem council. And I'm gonna have them come in boats, and we're gonna beat these motherfuckers' asses that stole me and killed." They didn't know that they killed me, and the Most High brought me back into the body. We're gonna get these niggas. That didn't happen. They kept teaching the gospel. You know? Oh, there was a point. Oh, the Apostle Paul could never be down with the ISUPK because the Apostle Paul showed some cowardice. Remember when they made a pact, there was 40 of them, that they wouldn't eat. They would fast and they wouldn't eat until Paul, you know, was put to death or died or whatever. In other words, they were looking to kill him. So there was a scenario, an account where he was teaching and he had to kind of sneak out of here, go to this place, and he had to be taken down in a basket to avoid those guys trying to kill him. And Paul was a man, he was like, he had an officership. He was a special agent, so to speak. Paul was an agent, all right? We always talk about agents. Well, guess what? Paul was an agent, but guess what? Paul got converted. So don't be surprised if you got agents in your camp that begin to see that this is the truth, man. I can't, and you know, good conscience come against these guys because this is the truth. Remember the soldier, the Roman soldier, in which he had to be a Jake, when the Lord was on the cross and he saw the darkness and so forth. He said, "Truly, this is the Son of the Most High." Now, Esau ain't gonna say no shit like that. So there had to be a Jake soldier that thought he was just another, you know, victim of the Roman persecution, and he was, you know, he's being executed. But he heard, he most likely heard that, you know, they go around saying that this guy's a Messiah. So when he saw the darkness and he saw, as a matter of fact, it was an earthquake. I'm sorry, lest I forget. It was darkness and there was an earthquake. Now I had an incident, I'm not going to go into it. In the very place that incident happened, some days later, there was an earthquake right in that place where I was. That's all I'm going to say. So when it got back to me, I said, well, that's a spiritual thing. Right where I was standing, there was an earthquake in that one spot. And that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so there was darkness for 3 hours, and there was an earthquake. So the Roman soldier, centurion soldier, he had to be a Jake. Definitely had to be a Jake, because he said, "Damn, man, we was wrong. This guy might just be the Messiah, man, that they're talking about." So anyway, I went all into that. Let me get back into this. Bottom line is, you got to be spiritual. You got to assess the situation. Like I said, let's deal with the scenario that IUIC was there first. ISUPK rolled up next to him. They kind of had a right. If IUIC was there first, they had a right to be here. But they said, well, something might happen to this. Let's just close up. Let's just close up and go someplace else, and they can have it. So, but now what I heard too was that one of the sound systems were kind of, the speaker was kind of pointing in the direction of the ISUPK, which if that's the case, then that's provoking demons, man. That's stirring up them spirits. Remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, spirits, demons in higher places. So that was all stirred up. Now, that whole incident wouldn't have happened had either the IUIC or the ISUPK, packed up, or whoever came after. I know they didn't come at the same time. Let's say IUIC was there first, ISUPK roll up. They should have said, well, they're there, let's go someplace else. No, man, but this is our spot. This is our spot, nigga. Yeah, but you know what? Let's go with the spirit. Let's go someplace else, because we're about doing the business. I must be about my Father's business, not about your business, or not about your leader's business. And these guys do things based on what their leaders say. And your leader tell you something that's in contradiction to the scriptures, you're gonna go by what your leaders say. Because that man worship, they got, and then another thing, this thing happened. You had a Passover. You had two Passovers. You had a major Passover with the ISUPK. Then you had a major, super spectacular Passover by the IUIC. And you had Bishop Nate coming on the horse. Then they call him, they change his name to General Nathaniel. And then this happens, not even, a month later? So all that pageantry that happened about a month ago all turned to shit because of the situation, because that's what everybody's talking about now, that thing. And like I said, let's say the IUIC was there. What is that? 1 Corinthians 6, take wrong. Why not take wrong? Why not be defrauded? 1 Corinthians 6. In other words, they're here. If they stay up here and we stay up there and we're yelling at each other, a fight's going to break out. So let's just close up, let's just close up and let's set up a mile away or 5 miles away, or whatever the case may be. Scriptures speak about being wise, man, applying wisdom. There's plenty of scriptures on. All you got to do is do a word search on wisdom, word search on knowledge, understanding, word search on the fear of the Lord. There's certain things that you look, if you're walking down the street and you see 4 or 5 dudes that look grimy, look like they're up to no good, what you do is you see it a block away, you don't keep walking down that way. You kind of I don't know what these guys are gonna do, but let me kind of go this way and go around the block and go around them guys, so I can avoid what might happen. Then again, something might not. Let's say you got a toolie on you, and you say, "Oh, these niggas tried something. I'm gonna do something to them." Then you wind up doing something to them. You kill 3 of them, and you're gonna wind up getting locked up. So you got to apply wisdom, and neither can't really apply wisdom. Ultimately, IUIC came out looking good because they didn't beat these guys. There was far more. There's about 30, seemed like 30, 25, 30 IUIC individuals, and maybe 5, 6 ISUPK. So, obviously you could have beat them up. If you want, you could have had the upper hand on them, but you held them down until the cops came, which is a good thing, but you could avoid that whole thing. So now everybody, this is the talk now. This is the new news. So you got to apply wisdom. So anyway, let me come over here. Yeah, this is funny as hell. This video is funny as hell. What do you say? Defend the gospel, not a chair, ISUPK versus the IUIC. And that's the whole thing. That was a nigga, that truly was a nigga moment. That truly was a nigga moment right there. Because the IUIC brother nudged the chair, didn't make room, but it set off one guy and he pushed the mic. He tried to knock the mic, the sound system down, and that caused the other guy to push, and these guys came out of nowhere. It was amazing. It was totally demonic, man. Anyway, let me go into this. Not gonna make this long. This is you can actually start from the first verse, read the whole chapter. This is Acts 17:5. I'm going right to the point. But the Jews which believe not move with envy. You know what I got to do? Okay, Thessalonica, there was a synagogue of the Jews, right? Now, Thessalonica, now it's going to even say it in this same chapter. Thessalonica was about 40 to 50 miles away from the church of Berea. That's why the Apostle Paul made that comparison. Because like if he was among the Israelites of Thessalonica, he had went, the next stop that he went was Berea. And he said, you know what? Berea, the church of Berea is more on point than you guys. He said, because they didn't take my word for it. They studied to see if these things were so. And you're guilty of it. You guys in the IUIC and ISUPK, you put up your leaders as your leader as a pedestal, like he's God. So if you look at him as God, he's got to be God. You know what I mean by that? Demigod. That's what they are, demigod. Look up the word demigod. Demigod. So whatever he says, you go along with it because the Most High is dealing with this man. He's a God on the earth. They said that about Paul. I believe it was Paul and Barnabas. And Paul and Barnabas had to correct him. No, we just men like you. Paul wasn't exalting himself. Barnabas wasn't exalting himself. Peter wasn't exalting himself. He said, silver or gold have I none, but whatsoever I have, I give to you. What he had was the spiritual power to heal the individual. So these guys are getting, big-headed, man, in themselves. They, extolling the virtues of, he's general now. He got to change his name, General Nathanielaga. And Nathanielaga is the Lashwan Qadash, which he kind of pushed the Lashwan Qadash out the window. And they said, he's a general. He's our general. They said that the other day. And too much man worship, And what was I going to say? Oh, they said in that Passover, the IUIC Passover, they basically said not so many words. We narrowed it down to him being one of two men. He's either Elijah the prophet or he's Peter, which we already know based upon the One West, who Peter is, or who Peter's supposed to be, and who Elijah is, or who Elijah's supposed to be coming back. So he threw that part out the window, but he took the 12 tribes. He'll go, oh, what are you, Western Indian? You're Benjamin. What are you, Mexican? You're Issachar. So he's cherry picking things from the gospel, which is wicked as hell. clearly. And this is this looks like the beginning and the end for these guys. Now, like I said, the Most High gonna break these groups up, but he's gonna take the elect out of it, because I believe that there's the elect that's mingled among all these different camps. That's just my personal belief. Anyway, let me go into this. And Paul, as his manner was, went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the scriptures, meaning for 3 weeks, opening and alleging that the Messiah must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Yahawashi, Hamashiach, whom I preach unto you, is the Messiah. And some of them believed and consorted with Paul and Silas, and of the devout Greeks. Now, the devout Greeks are talking about Israelites that knew that they were Israelites that were living outside of Jerusalem. So these Israelites that were living in Athens, they would be considered Greeks. A great multitude. I'm sorry. These are the Greeks. When you come across this word Greeks, as opposed to Grecian, those are Grecians, Israelites outside the land that know that they're Israelites, but they live outside the land, Palestine. Greeks represent, like, perfect example would be Cornelius, a man that grew up not knowing he was an Israelite necessarily. His parents, he grew up in his parents' house as a heathen, but he was an Israelite. But watching the Israelites out there and doing what they do, he got into it. He gave alms, he prayed, he did everything that a believer should do. And the angel came to him, presented him to Peter. But this guy was not of another nation. So at one time, Peter, you can call Cornelius a Greek. It says, and of the devout Greeks, meaning Israelites. Another word is a proselyte, someone newly come into the faith. A great multitude, and of the chief women, not a few. But the Jews, meaning the Israelites, that knew that they were Israelites, and this was up here in Thessalonica and Berea, and I believe that if you take out a map, they were above Corinth. Or if they were not above Corinth, they were near Corinth. But that was up, these places are known as what do you call it? Asia Minor. Corinth, Ephesus, all these different places, they were known as Asia Minor, because you had Israelites living all up there. But the Jews, the Israelites, which believed not, moved with envy, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the basest sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city on an uproar, and assaulted the house of Jason, and sought to bring them out to the people. So they got physical. So these Jews said, we need some, backup, some muscle. So they got these simple niggas that knew that they were Israelites or whatever. There's some simple niggas that don't, really worship the study of the scriptures and devoted to the Most High, but they knew that they were Israelites, So it says certain lewd fellows of the baser sort. And you got a lot of lewd Israelites of the baser sort that's among Israel, man. You can't have that in your camp. You just can't let any nigga just come into your camp. That's a topic right there. Anyway, so I looked up the word lewd. I didn't even get to the word base. I just looked up the word lewd. But the Jews which believe in Yahawashi, that was the Messiah, moved with envy, took unto them certain niggas. That's G4190. So the word here is Paniras. Paniras. Let me go to the root of that word. Panas means great trouble, intense desire, pain. Let me go to the next root. Poor, okay, to toil for daily substances. Yeah, like the poor man asks for, they'll beg for money and they'll get a little money here, a little money here. They get enough money to eat or do drugs or whatever the fuck they do. So let me come back over here. Paneras. Full of labors, annoyances, hardship, meaning somebody that's down on their luck. Pressed and harassed by labors, bringing taught. Now, pressed and harassed by labors could be talking about someone that's working at a dead end job that they're busting their ass and they're getting very little money for it. Bringing toils, annoyances, perils of a time full of peril to Christians, meaning believers, faith, and steadfastness, causing pain and trouble. Like, you have these people out there in Seattle and different parts of the West where they just set garbage cans on fire and they living in tents. They'll pull their pants down this shit in public because they're not, they're getting a little bullshit job. They might collect cans, they might beg for money, and they'll get a couple of dollars, but just enough to maybe get something to eat or do drugs or get a bottle of liquor or something like that. So these dumb people are generally bugged out people in their mind because of their condition. Like when we teach, we always get one or two people like that. They'll come around, asking for money, and we give them money. We give them money. I'll give them $2 here. Another brother might give them $5. But then they'll come every week. But take them here. There's one dude, he comes one time, he's gonna come 2 hours later, ask for more money. Poppy, give me $1. Give me $1, Poppy. Poppy, give me $1. Then we're like, look, man, we gave you $1. Then he comes back 2-3 hours later. Poppy, $1, Poppy, $1. He didn't come out this week because it was raining. He probably figured these motherfuckers ain't coming out, it's raining. But we went out there anyway. So it says bad of a bad nature or condition in a physical sense, desired or diseased or blind, and most of them are diseased. In an ethical sense, evil, wicked, bad. And they'll bust your car windows. If they see $1 in there, they bust your car window. Might cost you $100 to get that window fixed, $150 just to get $1 out your ass. That's why when there's major events, they push the homeless people out. And then a lot of these people that are homeless and bugged out in their mind, a lot of them are Army veterans, man. So that shows you, hey, the scriptures tell you that in the Apocrypha. Let me see if I can find it. I believe the word is poverty. Let's look it up. There's a lot of, I'm looking at these precepts. Let me just go to the Apocrypha. Okay, there's 9 times. Okay, I'm gonna read some of these precepts. Ecclesiastes 29:6. Help the poor for the commandment's sake and turn him not away because of his poverty. So when people come along, we give them a little $2, $3 here and there. Riches are good unto him that hath no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. Prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of Yahawah. So this is what I'm looking for. It's right here. Ecclesiastes 18, verse 25, when thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger. And when thou art rich, think upon poverty and need. Ecclesiastes 11, verse 12. Again, there is another that is slow and have need of help, wanting ability and full of poverty. So those are the lewd men. Yet the eye of Yahawah looked upon him for good and set him up from his lower state. That ultimately is talking about us. The Most High is going to set us up from our lower state, and he's going to bring the super rich. They're going to suffer poverty. This is what I was looking for. Ecclesiastes 26 and 28. There be 2 things that grieve my heart, and the third maketh me angry, a man of war that suffereth poverty. A man of war that suffereth poverty. The majority of the U.S. citizens, men that fought in Vietnam and the Gulf War, these various different wars, when they come back, they have the veterans administration, because my father was a veteran, right? So after he died, my mother had to go to the veteran to get certain benefits for the wife. And them guys are doing bad, man. Them guys are doing bad. A lot of them, man, they doing real bad. You got to go. And I went in there, right, with my mother. This is years ago. I'm like, I said, look at how they treating these veterans, man. The government's treating these veterans like shit. And most of them live under bridges, and most of them homeless people, man, and impoverished people. The men, a lot of them are most of them are military. So that's terrible, man. But they'll talk about how great this country is. Now, I'm going off into something else a little bit, like this situation with this guy that choked out the Jake. Here he got over $2 million, and they saw what he did was unjust. Now those same people could have said, well, let's do this for all the military guys. They did it because he was an Edomite. That shows you that this man is about his race. That right there shows you that he was about it, that they're about their race. And the men of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin. What does that mean? Someone that turns their back on the plow, that go back into the world. that return from righteousness to sin. Now that in the book of Hebrews, it says, he will, what is it, how does it say? I'm not going to go to it. If anybody sins willfully, you know what that's talking about? That's talking about when you turn your back on Yahawashi, he's no longer your savior. So the next sin that you do, you're going to be charged for that sin. That's what that means. It says Yahawah prepareth such an one for the sword. Ooh, the ones of you that turn your back on the sword, on the truth, the Most High is going to kill you. You come into this thing, you go back out into the world, the Most High is going to kill you. Last one, Ecclesiastes 22 and 23. Be faithful to thy neighbor in thy poverty, that thou mayest rejoice in his prosperity. Yeah, a true friend is what you, when you're down and out, and when you're doing good. Abide steadfast unto him in the time of trouble, help him out, that thou mayest be heir with him in his heritage. But that's talking about all of us. And see, Esau wasn't good to us. So you think we're going to be good to them in the kingdom? For a mean estate is not always to be condemned, nor the rich that is foolish to be had in admiration. So now let me come back over here. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these precepts. Like I said, there were 77 scriptures right here. And read some of them. Matthew 5, verse 11, blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. So the word there, evil, is the same word for lewd. So these guys from the ISUPK was going into a story, and I remember the dude that did that was years ago. That was back in that had to be back in 2010, and he's no longer part of the IUIC. So they dug back to bring that story out. The scriptures tell you about tail bearing and so forth, you know. So they were starting trouble. It says, this is called the Beatitudes. Matthew 5, Esau called the Beatitude, the way you got to be. Matthew 5, verse 37. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Lewdness. So they brought out that story, which went beyond the yea, yea, nay, nay, meaning you're supposed to be teaching the truth. '39 verse, same chapter. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. So the guy that nudged the chair, the other individual in the red shouldn't have did nothing, man. He should have just maybe looked, been concerned about it. Oh, you nudge a chair, I'm gonna knock your mic down. That was niggerism on a high level, man. That was a nigger moment. And all hell broke loose. Like I said, had one of the camps said, you know, we're rivals to this camp, we're just gonna close up. Even if they were there first, we're just gonna close up. None of this shit would happen. Nobody be able to look. Vocab, fucking last night he did a video on it. He got all into it, man. He did like a special live broadcast with them two nigger Christians. And they were happy as hell, man. Showing you that these Christians don't give a fuck about us. They're looking for us to fail. They're not looking for us to come into this truth. Yeah, this goes into for he, I'm reading from the middle, for he maketh his son, the sun, to rise on the evil and the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. It says that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 6, verse 13. And lead us not into temptation. Well, they'll pray that prayer and they put themselves in harm's way. But deliver us from evil, for thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and forever and ever. So be it. Amen. 23rd verse, same chapter, Matthew 6. But if thine eyes be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? So how wicked would these guys, like I said, what if a couple of them were carrying tools? They would have opened up and a couple of guys have got shot up. Maybe somebody got killed because none of them wasn't using, neither camp was using wisdom. They let pride take over. The scripture said pride go up before a fall. Even so, Matthew 7:17, even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. So was there good fruit going out on that day? No, there was tension going on. And they were trying to over yell each other. And Yahawashi, knowing their thoughts, said, wherefore think ye evil in your hearts? So they were thinking evil of their hearts. Like I said, if a couple of them had tools, they would have used them. They would have used them, especially ISUPK, because there was less men. So we're in the attack. Let's do what we got to do. Pow, 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 pow. The cops would have came. It'd have been a big mess. You might have had 2 or 3 dead individuals out there. So that wasn't wise at all, man. And they came in that complete military code. First of all, you got 25, 30 guys. I don't know if they were split up camps, but you don't need all of them. You don't need 2 or 3 guys to speak and then 25 guys to hold posts and just look mean. When you go to I believe that's Luke 10, and you read about the Lord, he sent out the 70 2 by 2. Matthew 12, verse 34, O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So lewd means evil men that are like uneducated men. These jakes that these stick-up kids and these niggas busting in the stores and shit. They're lewd people. They're lewd people, man. That's why the Lord says, if you have a son that's stubborn and is a glutton, what do? You put him to death, because if you let that child grow up to be a man, how is he going to live? He's going to live by knocking other people over the head. So now let's come back. It said, lewd fellows, evil fellows, are the baser sort. Agarayos, which means in of the or belonging to the marketplace, frequenting the marketplace, huskers, petty traffickers. They steal shit and they sell stuff to people. retail dealers, idlers, loungers, the common sort, low, mean, vulgar, generally proper to the assembly, suited to forensic speaking, business-like transactions. In other words, they might have robbed somebody. I'm talking about in the ancient world. They robbed somebody's cloak, garment, girdle, whatever, and they'll go to the market where people are buying the agora, and they'll try to sell it. And Jake does that shit today. They rob shit, they bust in the stores, jewelry stores, then they'll go out and they'll sell it to people at a discounted rate. So these were low life that these Jews got to stir this whole mess up. So it says, this is the main reason why they got the Jews, these men they were Israelites that had they were like authorities at that time. So they got these low-life niggas, these low-life nigger Israelites to stir shit up. And I believe it said they assaulted, right, they said, and assaulted the house of Jason. Assaulted. Let's look up the word assaulted. Let's see what the Greek word is. Because what happened that day, IUIC and ISUPK, there was an assault. So let's look this up and I'm going to close it. A fist in me sounds like a fist in me. And they put the fist in them. I don't like this definition here. Let me look this up here. Anyway, you know what the word assault means. They busted in the guy's house and they took him. When you read the next verse down, let me go to that. Acts 17, verse 6. And when they found them not, they drew Jason and certain, like they grabbed them up, they arrested them, certain brethren, unto the rulers of the city, crying, these that have turned the world upside down are come hither also. So guess what? What do you mean by turn the whole world upside down? Meaning what we're used to hearing from people, the everyday talk, they're coming with something completely different. So when the Israelite, the former one Westers, came out on the highways and the byways, came on YouTube, that's why there's an uproar about with the Christian community, because we turn the world upside down. And when you go to Vocab's page, 98% of the stuff that he put on there is focused on the Hebrew Israelites. He ain't preaching the gospel. He ain't preaching the gospel. All he does is come against the Israelites. Turn the world upside down. And I bet you that's Cosmos. meaning changing the Israelites' mind and to come into the truth. Upside down are come thither also. They're here with that mess, whom Jason have received, and these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, one Yahawashi. So basically, these niggas were saying we like Caesar, and they troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. So I don't got to read anymore. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.